Of the growth and scaling sessions. We've got some amazing guests in the green room, standing by, waiting to talk to all of you.
In today's world, there's more and more opportunity to have a hybrid in between both of those.
Your job isn't to get into the industry to get rich. Your job is to get into the industry to support and provide the best service you can.
Listen, discover, explore. I mean, it's exactly what I tell the brands that we open retail stores for, right?
Hey, welcome back to another session of the Growth and Scaling Roundtable. Today is going to be so much fun because we are focusing on a topic that I know you're probably thinking you hear enough about it, but you can't get enough about this because everybody seems to be failing in their business when they don't have a clear mission. And so we are going to talk about this topic as we have talked in previous episodes about launching your revenue rockets in your business. And we have all these different levers we can pull to build growth, build momentum, and grow our revenue rockets. One of the primary things you always have to be sure of is where are you going? What is your mission? What are you trying to solve? Who are you trying to help? All that kind of good stuff. And today I brought in a specialist who does an amazing job of helping to clarify this for other people. We're going to dive right into the topic with our friend Maria. Maria, welcome. Will you please give us a quick intro as to who you are and what do you do?
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much, Todd. First, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me and diving into this conversation today. My name is Maria Maldonado Smith. I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer because my role at my company, MMS Consulting Firm, is truly to empower individuals, larger teams. I build team cohesion, increase employee retention, and align companies and employees with their mission, vision, purpose, and value statements. So we do it through a unique way. My signature workshop is called Executive Vision Imagery, and it takes employees' personal and professional goals and aligns them with a visual representation of that through what I call kind of that visual roadmap. And so the end of a day-long session with me has each of the employees building out their own vision board unique to the goals that they set throughout the day. So it's a really fun experience, and I love what I do.
You know, not many people get as excited about it as you do right now. And I love that. Because it truly is such a game changer. I have interviewed literally hundreds of CEOs. And when I interview a CEO, oftentimes I will ask them about their mission statement and what is sometimes more, I don't know if it's more importantly or more directly, I love to find out who they're serving and what problem they solve. Mm-hmm. And, I always think about, cause I'm a guy and I grew up with, I've got military in my family and I know people who have been soldiers and been off to war and all that stuff. I've always thought growing up, imagine if our government sent our military into a military operation without a mission. Mm-hmm. What would they do?
Yes.
Maria,
yes.
How do people start a business without a clear mission of exactly what they're doing when they're behind enemy lines, when they're protecting their home front? What are they doing without a mission statement? What's going on here?
Well, the interesting thing is that in order for people to understand what they're supposed to do, to your point, they have to know the mission that they're following. If not, communication gets completely, off kilter. We don't know really what we're doing. What I find primarily in the work that I do is helping individuals align with the companies that they work for. There's a number from about 2006. That number probably needs to be updated a little bit, but anywhere from 85 to 90% of worldwide corporations have a mission statement. So they know why they're showing up in the world for their employees. What I find though is that only about and actually Harvard Business Study did a study on this. Only about 28 to 30% of employees feel aligned or even know what their company's mission statement is.
Is that
So
right?
huge disconnect right there.
Holy
We're not
cow.
doing a great job of helping our employees understand what the mission is. And then what I have found sometimes in my workshops is as people are aligning their own personal mission, their own personal mission statement, they're outlining and defining their core values, they find that they're in disalignment with the corporation or the company they might be working for. And listen, it happens because oftentimes we're looking for a job. We just need something to pay the bills. But over
Right.
80% of employees want to feel that the work they do is meaningful and has value. And so when you think about that, what our younger generation especially is telling us is that they want to show up for work to work for a purpose. They
Love
want to
it.
show up to work understanding how their individual contribution on a daily basis leads to the ultimate goal or the higher purpose of what that company's mission is. So they want to know. They want to know
Right.
what it is.
Now I got to ask you, because I love asking people like you this question. I know that mission, vision, values
Mhm.
all need to align. But what is the difference between a vision versus a mission versus having core values? They
Yeah,
oftentimes get lump summed.
they
How do you interpret
do.
those three things?
They do, and the thing is that I help individuals go through this process the same that I would, a company. So really core values, I mean, those are the things that are like when we talk about like honoring commitments to ourselves,
Yeah.
that's really what I think about when I think about core values. Like these are the unwavering principles. These are the non-negotiables, the things that no matter what, if the going gets tough, like these are the things I'm unwilling to waver from
Right.
because they are the core of who I am, the foundation truly. We think about like a building a house or the foundation of
Totally.
a floor. When I think about a mission statement, this really is kind of that why. This is the reason why all of these core values, when brought together, kind of creates that mission, that move forward movement. And then to me, the vision is everything encompassing the future, the here,
Right.
the now, but then also the future. It's saying, okay, we have a vision of where we're headed. It might take us 10 years to get there. It might take us 50 years to get there, but we know the direction that we're going.
Right.
And also leaves room and opportunity to pivot or to tweak those goals or that vision as needed.
Right. I hear you, and I think that as I've been dealing more and more with companies that are, all my life I've been a startup founder, and so I've always had like this vision of where I want to take the business. What I've been learning in the past few years in interviewing so many different CEOs is that I'm kind of short-sighted. I've short-sighted myself in creating this broad vision, right, of what I see the company ultimately becoming, but not defining multiple missions for my company. Like, I think that this is where like the military thing makes so much sense to me. It totally resonates. I watched Band of Brothers the last couple of weeks. I was
Yes.
house sitting for my son and his wife, and I watched Band of Brothers, and I was like,
Mhm.
every time they would jump out of an airplane, they had a very clear mission of what their objective was. Their vision was to be the best paratrooper they could be for the army, right? But the missions were different each time. And so as I've been listening more carefully to business owners talking about their missions versus their visions, I see the vision, I see the mission, and I see core values connecting the dots between the mission and the vision, because the core values, like you just said, they really do define the individual. Do they align with the company? Are they free to feel comfortable within their, do they connect on a very foundational level,
Mhm.
helps them execute a specific mission to get the company to that vision, right?
Yes.
Am I
Yeah.
right? Or
Yes.
am I seeing this the right way,
Yes.
Maria? Talk
Yeah,
to me.
you're absolutely correct. And I also tell participants too that you're not going to be able to write your mission statement in 20 minutes.
Right.
We try to give ample time, 30 minutes sometimes, and it comes up upon a break because I want them to think about it even more.
Totally.
So I say, we're having our first break of like a first big break of the day, which typically, is lunch. We've had a couple of smaller ones, and they break, and then I'll just go around the room and ask them, what are you kind of thinking about your mission? Are you
Right.
are you lost? Are you thinking, because sometimes it takes time. And I'm very honest with them in saying that even though I knew I had a vision for my company, I wasn't sure that I had the mission dialed in
I love
completely
it.
until I was 3 to 4 months into business. And then
I
it
love it.
kind of hit me and I'm like, okay, now I get it. Like, it's starting to be more clear. Like
I think it's awesome. I
so
think it's awesome. And I love that you focus on the individual, because they do need to have clear mission of what they're doing, what they're like. Nobody really feels satisfied if they're not accomplishing something, right? And I think a business is the same way. How do you connect those dots between their personal missions and what they're trying to do with their organization?
Well, and I think that's where the core goals come into play, with that alignment of a personal and professional goal. Because, I tell them all the time, we're in a team setting. So the idea is that I'm not just here showing up and saying, I'm going to make you the best, like rah rah, human being, but like we
Right.
are here in a corporate or a company setting. So the idea is that we find that alignment for how you see yourself showing up in your work. The best way that I can put it is, and I share, even my story about how, I felt oftentimes throughout a large portion of my career that I was showing up as two different people, just
Yeah.
showing up as, this like, kick butt, like I'm ready to go. Like I don't have
Right.
anything, no distractions over here, no family, no nothing. Like I'm just like, I'm all focused on this, this company mission and my own personal mission professionally. And then, at home, it's like all of that was supposed to cease as well, because now I'm mom and now I'm a wife and I've got all these different things going on
Right.
in my personal life. So the idea is actually to bring the two together so that we're not competing against each other consistently, because that makes for a
Right.
very difficult approach to just living life in general. You're constantly caught in between, and you can't show up yourself or 100% authentically you when that's what's going on. So
Totally agree.
I help them align, and bring that kind of ownness and that ownership to their personal and professional aspects of their life. And that's really how we kind of tie the two together, to say, your personal core goals and your personal mission statement should be pretty similar to the
I
company
totally
that
agree.
you show up to work for every day. And as an employer, if there is disalignment, you should want to facilitate or at least help that employee find the fit that's for them.
Yep.
Because as a business owner, I want the people that work for me
Yep.
to want to be here. I want them
Totally.
to want to show up every day, and who they, love the mission. And if I had someone who was vehemently against vision boarding, or didn't see its value or purpose, or didn't believe in the science behind
Right.
it, probably wouldn't bode well for me to put
I
that
get it.
person as a representation of my company in front of other people.
It's funny that you say that, because over the last 2 years, I found a few instances where I onboarded a new client, and I could tell right after we signed the deal that this wasn't going to end well, because I could tell that now that their true nature and their mission and their core values were made present to me, I understood that we don't jive together all that well.
Mhm.
Like you gotta be clear. And so as an employee to a business, as a business to a client, as there needs to be that alignment. And I think that if you ask most operators who their favorite clients are, they're the people that align with their mission, they align with their vision, with their core values. They have similar visions. How do you connect that dots with people with they have a hard time finding the right clients?
Well, I would say, first of all, I would say be open. Be open about asking what the core values. Do you have a mission statement? I mean, we know that globally about
Yeah.
80 to 90% of companies have them. So, I mean, typically you have something. Even with some of the smaller businesses or startups that I've worked with, they're like, we have a rough draft. We're
Right.
still tweaking it. We're still building, because as they grow, what might have worked for a team of 30 looks a lot different for a team of 300 or
Right.
500. So they're learning to adapt some of that to the ever changing dynamic of their business.
Right.
But I would say that it starts with having those real conversations of just, hey, where are you? Let me see if there is a alignment. And I think for
Right.
employees, the same. They got to ask the same of their companies. I want to understand, if we coach and develop and train to those core values, that mission statement, and that vision, we're really setting our employees up for success, because they're the ones that are out, when they're not, on the clock
Totally.
for us. they're the ones out there representing the organization. They're the ones that if people say, oh, I know that person because, they work for that company. And now I think more favorably of that company because of the person that I just
Totally.
interacted with. So I think a
Totally.
lot of it is just having those candid conversations about, hey, you know what? Let's see if this jives. I
Love
have
it.
had to unclient people before.
Totally. Totally.
It's not a comfortable situation
No,
at all.
no. Well, why can't we work together? Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you've done an amazing job. We threw together these 3 thoughts before we started the call, and we've been addressing them really, really clearly. But for everyone else to see, we feel like there's 3 really important ways to build your best mission statements. And one is they need to align with the core values, which we've talked about, is so important. Second, you've got to actually have a mission. Like what are you going to accomplish? Like you can't just say, I'm going to help all the happy people in the world be happier. You've got to like really solve a problem. And so
Yes.
what is that? Be clear on what you're actually going to solve. And the third thing is have actionable items with a deadline. And can you walk us through that? I mean,
Sure.
how do people see that happening as opposed to just this grandiose vision of where they're bringing their company?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that the aligning the core values is pretty clear. I always share my mission statement with participants of my workshop. It's actually in the workbook that I have because I want to give them an example. If I'm going to show up and ask them to define what their mission statement is, I better be prepared to
Totally.
to mirror that. And so
Totally.
I lead as the example, and I always say, after you've kind of found whatever your core values are, and we'll use integrity, character, that we're always doing the right thing, regardless of whether it may cost us, but it's the right thing by the customer or by the person that we're seeking to help. And then I always ask a couple of other follow-up questions too, especially when you're outlining your personal mission statement. Like, who do you want to become? So as a company,
I love that.
I would rephrase that as who or how do you want your company to become known? How do you want your company to show up in the world? But on a personal level, it's like, well, who do I want to become? What am I really truly seeking? Like, what is kind of that mission for my life?
Right.
What is your purpose? What is the purpose? Why am I going to market with this particular product? Why am I showing up in my life every day? That's how it really is on a personal level. What kind of standards, what standards do you have? Do you want to define your life or your company by? Like I said, we'll always do the right thing. We're going to foster, those connections. We're going to, we're going to drive growth, but we're going to do it in a way that serves both our employees and our customers, and provides them with a product that they can be proud of, that they can become loyal to. And then the other one is, how will you commit to yourself, in becoming the best version of you? I think for a company, it's how will we commit to our employees and to our consumers to ensure that we are creating either, products that are sustainable or a product that they truly can value, that's quality, that is, provides them with a better quality of life, depending on, what realm or what sphere of, or what industry they're in. So there's so many different ways to kind of look at that. And then really, like you said, it ends with an actionable deadline, that, and to me, sometimes that can be the goal. And I always say the goal is the journey, it's really the destination is the goal. So the journey, everything getting there along the way are, to your point, those little mini missions that we're in and involved in every single day. So,
and I feel like sometimes when I've talked about mission, vision, values before, I've made the mistake of making my mission very, very I won't say vanilla, but more like pie in the sky and not as actionable. And so I'm glad that you touched on that, because I feel like, I'm working with a client right now. They have 100 store locations. We're doing some beta testing with a small group of stores. And what we've done is we do have a mission of a certain revenue number we're trying to hit. We've got a mission of like, how we're going to bridge make the gap wider between cost and top line revenue. And we've got some very specific, like, long-term goals we want to hit. But one thing we're really honing in on this week, and I'm actually really having fun with this, is what actionable metrics can we hit in the next 3 weeks, in the next 3 months, and the next 90 days, like just kind of building this out. And that has been a fun exercise. And I don't know whether to call those mini mission statements or mini executable goals. Like, how do I call that in terms of, you're the expert here. What are those? Are they just goals or are they actually missions?
They're probably a little bit of both, because when I think about like a big goal, sometimes it is the mission. We challenge ourselves. We kind of put ourselves on this mission to make sure we get things done. I typically say when I'm working towards a big goal, like I will always use the phrase, I'm on a mission, like I'm on a mission to complete.
I do that too. I do the same thing. Totally.
Yes. I also use different terminology too around like when I'm setting up goals, because I still think those would probably, especially because they are more revenue generated or revenue focused, that I would use terms like guideposts, or those are like the milestones to kind of get to that bigger goal. So the mission is actually the overarching, theme or overarching idea that you're reaching towards. And then now you have these little milestones along the way that you're working to get to. So maybe the first one is that first, 30 to 60 days. The next one is that first 120. And then the next one is, along the way. And then the only thing I'll say too is, as you're accomplishing those, make sure that you're setting yourself up to celebrate those moments all along the way.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? That is so funny you say that, because I was literally talking to this regional manager over these 4 stores this morning, and I said, okay, so we've got these objectives. How do we help all 4 stores feel like we got to win when only one of the stores hits the goal? You know what I mean? And so how do you help people kind of drive that reward system in their mission, vision, values statements?
Yeah. Well, so I always take it back to the stats, and studies show that, 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions fail. So only 8%, 62% give up within the first month.
Wow.
And so I always ask participants, why do you think that is? What do you think the reasoning behind that is? And, people will say, oh, they made the goal too big. They made the goal too broad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, you're all correct. You're absolutely correct. And I said, but then when you really dial in, dial down on some of those other subtopics of those studies, because there's a meta-analysis of a lot of studies. One thing that you find is that people didn't set themselves up for success. They didn't provide a way to celebrate the small wins along the way. We get so fixated and focused on this large goal that when we only move the needle this much, we're like, oh, well, that's nothing. That's not really, I didn't really accomplish that much.
But
when moving the needle this much actually meant you had to rearrange the way you operate, you had to make some changes, you had to implement some positive habits in your life. So I think we don't do a good enough job of recognizing our small wins. And from a company standpoint, that's how we keep our people motivated, is by allowing them those moments to say, you know what, it's been a rough month, but slowly we're getting there. Maybe we had more days than not that we didn't hit the target, but ultimately we're still driving business forward. We're making progress. And I liken those milestones to a literal race. I said to a friend of mine that the only way that anyone could get me to run a race anymore was to do those rock and roll marathons or half marathons. No, I'm not even a marathon. I'm not
like 10K, 5K.
Yes. I loathe running. It just gets me to an end result quicker than most other things. So it's, I do it out of sheer fact that like I can burn more calories in a faster amount of time. Yeah. And so it is, it's utility at its finest when it comes to expending energy. So I said, I would only do a race with you if it was one of those like, rock and roll, like half marathon things where every mile or 2 miles you had a band. Because that's part of it. Because every mile I need someone to remind me why I signed up for this stinking thing. Why I decided that this was a bright idea.
You know what? And that really is the purpose, right? I mean, it is a reminder of why we are on this mission, why we're doing this thing, why we're, I think you bring up some really, really great points there. And I think that, for those of you listening, I would love to have you share in the comments, are you clear on your mission? Do you feel like you have a clear mission statement? Do you feel like your team would recognize it if you said it in a meeting. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh, I just thought of a fantastic exercise too, is you could
Yeah.
read 2 or 3 mission statements. Your company's is in there. See if your team can identify the mission statement
I
of your
love it.
company.
I love it. No,
Maybe
seriously
that
though.
comes right, maybe that comes with a gift card, but maybe they have to put their phones in the middle of the table too, and their laptops have to be closed.
Name three of our core values. Name one of our core
Name one.
values.
That's right, name one. Yeah. Do you know our company's name? Are you sure
Totally.
you have it?
You know, and I go through phases of this. You know, I have an agency called Moku, and Moku it has a deeper meaning as a word. It's actually a Japanese word, and but I turned it. I didn't want to. I got tired of explaining the Japanese meaning and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of made it an acronym for our core values. And it worked out really good because, and I used to be much better at this than I am right now, but we used to, in every hands-on, everyone hands-on meetings and things like that, we would have everybody kind of recite all 4 core values. And so every meeting, like every week, we were doing this this core value recitation, and so everybody knew what our core values were. And Moku is 4 letters, so it's really easy. The M was for being moral. I hated working with companies that screw you over and were out to screw their clients. It just made me so mad. Mm-hmm. So being moral is our first core value. Second is to be optimistic. I love being happy and optimistic. Like it shows in your work. And then the third is to be keen to our clients' needs. It's really like being kind of in their face, understanding what's going to make them happier as a client. And then U is to have a uniting, understanding force of really unifying and aligning with our clients what they're expecting us to do for them as an agency. And so those 4 core values became very easy for my company, all my employees, to understand what we stood for because it was in our name. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that. And anytime that they can align that, it's a constant reminder too, because now they're starting to make the
connections.
The connections. Yes, yes. And so, that's a great way for us also to learn. I deal so much with the visual space and how, 80 to 90% of us are visual learners. And so if we can see that and we can start to align those core values with the meaning of that word, it becomes more synonymous. And then what we know is that it kind of seeps into us and becomes like a part of
it really does.
Yeah. And so now they're showing up as that. They're showing up that optimism is coming out, that keenness to your customers' needs is starting to, exude through
it really does
they have. Yeah.
And the morality thing, it's a funny thing. It's a funny word because we use it in different ways, but I can tell you right now that a lot of our early decisions in shaping the way our agency operated would come back and we'd say, is it moral? Is that a moral thing to do? Is that, if we wanted to run ads a specific way, if we wanted to build a creative a certain way, is this telling the real story? Is this deceptive marketing? Is this, like it really did become a core part of how we built our SOPs and how we operated our agency. So it's kind of interesting.
Yes. Well, and the younger generation, I think about my daughter, my oldest is 16, and I think about the kind of world that she wants to show up for when, she becomes an employee here, which is crazy because she's just starting to look for like summer jobs. And so Chick-fil-A is always like the top of every 16 list, I feel like, because they think it's, free food. Like,
I know. Never mind the wage. It's all about the food and the values, right?
That's right. Yes.
And no work on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. You get a day of rest. But when I think about that, it's one of the things that she's also looking into, sustainability. That's a huge piece of what a lot of Gen Zers and what a lot of I guess younger millennials are really looking to align themselves with. To your point, like, is it moral? Is it, and their version of that, morality could be like, is it good for the earth? Is it sustainable? Are we putting the products out there, that really can help us advance our environmental future, or, there's the future of the air and that I breathe and the land that I, get to inhabit. So
totally. I'm with you.
Yeah, all of these they're just great ways to think about how we approach our business.
So tell us, before we close this off, I think this has been a really fun conversation. As people go to when they engage with you, and you're helping them build out this mission, vision, values, and all these things that are so critical. What is the best way for them to engage with you? I mean, is it just go to your website, and what does an engagement look like with you, and how do you help them? What's your ultimate goal for them?
My ultimate goal for them is for them to show up, one, and know why they're showing up. So to show up for themselves, but know why they're showing up every day, to really feel aligned and connected with
Yeah.
their own personal mission, and vision for their life. And then, listen, we all have to pay bills. We all have to,
Right.
and so we find alignment typically in places where we feel that it represents who we are.
Yeah.
So we want to show up to an organization or to a company that we feel advances not just a mission to, solve for X, or to,
Right.
end at this, this sales revenue goal, et cetera, but that we also feel like pretty aligned to. Like, I show up for this every day because I see the purpose, I see the value. Participants spend all day with me. We start with
Love it.
breaking down a process individually. By the end of the day, we kind of align that and bring that back in to the team component. I'm also wanting people to understand why each of their counterparts are showing up as well. Because
Sure.
if I understand why you, Todd, are so passionate about the work you do,
Yeah.
maybe we have just now made another
Oh, yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And now we've got something that we can work on together. Maybe we can project or ideate together, or
Right.
think about ways in which we can improve the culture or the environment.
Right.
And then they do so by, it all leads to this vision board. And so I
I
always
love it.
say, I love vision imagery because it is incredibly powerful. There's so much neuroscience involved in how we can set ourselves up for success from that visual perspective.
Right.
But then I also offer over 35 different workshops that align with employee engagement, with having conversations around topics that drive a team's growth,
That's
stability,
cool.
and alignment.
Well, I got to tell you, you're throwing out a lot of words that people hear in a lot of places, but I got to tell you, from a real world example, the past 3 or 4 years, I've spent an awful lot of time as a fractional CMO for different companies in growth stages of their business. And one of the things that I found most interesting is that the companies that really start to take off are the ones that have a way to align sales, marketing, and product teams. And for me, those are all what I consider revenue operations.
Mhm.
Marketing generates the leads, sales closes them, product gives them the product to actually market, right? When they're dysfunctional, it's almost impossible to see growth. And what you have talked about in this conversation, and what I talk about quite regularly, is how do you align them? Well, you align them with mission. You align them with a common mission. And I have just, I got to say, for those of you that haven't done so already, look up Maria on LinkedIn. Check out what she's up to. Go check out her website. I've had it up here multiple times. And second thing, consider, something like a community where you as a founder or operator can align your missions with specific actionable items that you can do with your advisory boards. I just think having an advisory board helps so many people align their mission to the right direction. Some people are trying to solve the wrong problems and they don't know it because their advisory board they don't have one. Their advisory board is their kids or their wife, and they're not in the weeds with them every day, right?
Right.
And so I highly encourage you, whether it's Captain's Council, whether it's a group of CEOs you go to lunch with once a month, find your happy place with other people engaged in the same type of work that you are, and have them validate. Are you focusing on the right missions right now? Are you trying to accomplish the right things to grow your business, or to grow your team, or to grow whatever your impact?
Mm-hmm.
Chances are you're not. And if you're not, if you're just in your own ecosystem, your own echo chamber, you don't really know whether you're helping or hurting, right?
Right. I love that you said that, like, about your spouse or your kids. Sometimes we do it with the best of intention because we want to involve them. We want them
Totally.
to think like, oh, you're a part of this too. I
Totally.
always tell my kids, like,
But
I'm building this, so one day you might want to take this over. And they're like, oh, okay. But not right now. They're like, I don't know
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Right.
Yes, no, you have to find people who do have that alignment. And yeah, I mean, I would love for people, like I said, I'm active most on, LinkedIn and Instagram, but reach out to me through my website as well. You can just do the contact page. There's an inquiry form there. You can submit that. It'll sign you up for my newsletter. It goes out every other week. I talk about a lot of topics related to how we can help, create the vision in our own lives and within companies as well.
I love it. I love it. Maria, you've been an amazing guest today, an amazing panel partner today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And for those of you who are listening, leave comments below. Let us know what you're thinking. We will be engaging with you for the next few weeks on this. And we thank you for being involved and being around. Thanks, Maria.
Yes, thank you.